you said that your job was to tie people up. So you did know that, I mean, I read somewhere, the lady, did y'all put her on a couch face down? Was she
Uh,
tied up?
No, she was not tied up.
She was on the couch though, face down.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there was a statement made by a person that says, well, they're gonna recognize us. So, we're gonna have to kill them because they're gonna call the police. Where were you when that statement was made?
And you did hear that correctly. We are about to watch the parole hearing for a man who is involved in taking 3 lives. Now, before we watch this 2024 parole hearing, we are going to take a blast to the past, his 2022 hearing, and it is a hearing led by the Honorable Judge Bonnie Jackson. And we are going to do something that we haven't done before, and that is to bundle up his cohorts. We're going to span across 2020 to 2024. We're going to see Miss Bonnie Jackson. We're going to see Mr. Mirabella, and we're going to see his cohort's parole hearings to see the difference in their stories and really unpack the outcome. So with that, let's jump in.
Okay, this is the case for Broderick Turner, DOC number 476446, classified as a third felony offender. Offenses: manslaughter, 3 counts, and contraband. Sentencing date: February 13, 2004, and June 24, 2014. Sentenced to a total of 35 and a half years. Parole date: August 1st, 2021. Good time: November 16, 2029. Full term: April 4th, 2036. Is this information correct, sir?
Ma'am, it is.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
All right, good morning, Mr. Turner. How are you this morning?
I'm fine. I'm doing fine, Ms. Jackson. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm fine. Mr. Turner, your case has been assigned to me, so I'll start the questioning for the board. You are 49 years old?
Yeah, ma'am.
And you're kind of muffled. You were having a hard time hearing you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm 49 years old. Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
And this case involved the death of 3 people. And you received a 35-year sentence to run concurrently. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you got an additional 6 months after this for contraband in a penal institution. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
How long have you actually served on this sentence, Mr. Turner?
21 years, just about to the day.
Tell us, I know that there were other individuals involved in the commission of this crime, but would you tell us what your role was in this crime?
I was an active participant in this crime, willingly went along with some friends to commit a robbery. On the course of this robbery,
let me ask you a question. Had you and your friends traveled here from Texas?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Was it the same day? Did you all drive directly here and then go to the victim's home?
No, ma'am, we didn't. We came directly here, and we spent some time with some young ladies and another friend of ours out in the neighborhood.
Well, how long were you in town before you all went to the victim's house?
Maybe about 2-3 hours.
So basically it was the same day. You drove in from Houston, hung out for a little bit with some friends, and then you went to the victim's house. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the purpose of going to that home?
Supposedly to collect some money from a guy that owed my friend some money.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. What did y'all talk about on the drive? Because 4 or 5 hours? What did you guys talk about on the drive from Texas to Louisiana about what was going to happen and how y'all were going to accomplish your purpose?
Actually, Ms. Jackson, there was no robbery talked about along the way here. It was actually a drive to initially meet up with young ladies and the guy that's from my neighborhood. That conversation didn't come up until after we got here, but I was aware of the situation once it was talking.
Okay. I think I read somewhere that you indicated that you actually tied the victim's hands.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
So you tied their hands and feet, you tied their hands behind their back.
We tied 3 of the men up.
Mhm.
The young lady that was in the house, she said that she was pregnant, so we didn't put her up like that. We just told her to lay on the couch and put her face in the back of the couch because she said she was pregnant. She couldn't be tied up like that.
But she got shot anyway and killed, correct?
Now she did.
And then there was a 4th person who was shot and he played dead. And he was a surviving witness. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is.
Okay. And for the death of 3 people and the attempted murder of a 4th person, he only got 35 years. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is true.
Okay. All right, you've been in prison for 21 years. I see that you've earned 390 days of good time credit, but I also see that along the way you lost 217 days. Tell us how you ended up losing 217 days of credit.
Early on in my incarceration,
Mhm.
I hadn't done to put my best foot forward, hadn't made a change. I was enduring and catching write-ups at the time in which I was, doing different things, gambling tickets. On there, I even got caught with some synthetic marijuana at that time. As I said early on in my incarceration, I hadn't yet begun to even try to make a transition or a change for the better.
Okay, so I see you've had 38 disciplinary write-ups. Does that sound about right to you?
That's just about approximately right. They was having the issue with the write-ups. There was Project Turner, not taking away from my responsibility of me owning up. But
All right.
maybe,
But you
yeah.
you had a couple expunged, but I counted that before that expungement, you had 38. So I would believe that the records are accurate as to the 38. And the last one was in 2000. Hold on. Okay. When was your last one?
If my memory serves me correctly, I think it was August 4th.
2016. I show one in 2016 for disobedience. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you remember what that incident was about?
I think it was for smoking a cigarette. I think it was. I can't remember exactly what it was for back then.
Okay. So when did you said that when you first got there, you weren't in the right mindset. So when did you make a change? And what caused you to make a change, Mr. Turner?
If I may explain this, I got in trouble times in 2014. That's a far cry from the time that I was incarcerated. But thereafter, shortly thereafter, being in trouble at the end of 2014, in 60 days later, got into some trouble. At that point, that was like a breaking point for me. Having just experiencing doing the same old things and getting the same old results. As I sat there in administrative segregation, I reflected on those things that I was doing.
How long were you in administrative segregation?
At that time, I was in there maybe about 5 months, 5.5 months.
Okay. And then what happened when you got out?
Well, Ms. Jackson, to tell you the truth, I actually decided that I wanted to make a change, and I wanted to start doing, put my best foot forward to make that change. And I began to see classes, faith-based classes and self-help classes, in which I was accepted into and completed.
How long have you been at the facility you're in currently?
I'm 1 month shy of 18 years here.
Okay. I see that you've done Cage Your Rage in 17, Living in Balance 1 and 2 in 19, and pre-release in 2018. I see that you got a degree from Wiley College in 2019, and you've done some faith-based programs.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you done victim awareness?
That program has not been offered here at the facility.
Okay, so it's not offered at the facility?
No, ma'am.
Was it offered as part of the pre-release?
We're learning that in life, in pre-release, it's taught, but I would think you was talking about an individual class.
Well, there is an individual class, but I'm just wondering if you've had any.
Yes, ma'am. Doing reentry, I have.
So from all the courses that you've taken, Mr. Turner, which ones have been most important in your development, your growth and development?
Ms. Jackson, I would honestly, and not just saying it just because it was a year-long program, I would have to say NOBTS. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I am. So why was that most impactful?
Well, I come from a family to where my mother was the sole breadwinner and my father was an alcoholic. So dysfunction is the word I would use. And it was talked about a lot in there. And you begin to see these things that took place in your life at a younger age. And as I began to grow and start to search for positive things and doing positive things, I sought after the why. Why was I doing these things? And why was I taking myself through these things? And in that class is a group. You're allowed to hear other people talk about their situations and stuff. And then I began thus to open up these things I started to see and that I've experienced in my life, and eventually, grew from that.
Well, help me understand then what was going on in your life that would cause you to participate in this horrific murder of 3 people.
Ms. Jackson, I didn't have no sense of direction. I mean, I'm hanging out every day with my friends, we're drinking.
You're probably 27 in that range, 27, 28.
I can admit that, I'm not going to try to solely blame it on that.
I understand, but I want to know what you mean. A lot of people have stuff going on in their lives. A lot of people have difficult circumstances. I want to know why you think what caused you to choose to be involved in the murder of 3 people?
I mean, the word following comes to mind as well. Just not on the path that I was raised on, and making bad decisions, making terrible decisions.
Were you a user of alcohol and drugs?
Yes, I was.
Tell us about that.
My father passed at an early age, maybe around 15. I was 15, and I started to first out drinking alcohol all the time, out with my friends or whatever. And eventually, around the time I was about 19, going into 20, I began to smoke marijuana, and eventually tried PCP.
Okay, so marijuana and PCP, is that the only thing that you've used?
Yes, ma'am, and I've drank alcohol.
Okay. Were you under the influence of anything on the date of these homicides?
Yes, ma'am, I was. We had been drinking and smoking weed.
Okay. What would you say, Mr. Turner, to the families of these three people who were murdered, one of whom was a pregnant woman, to tell them why you think you have a release date by good time in 29. You've only served 21 years. You only got 35 years for killing three people. That's less than 10, a little over 10 years per homicide. Why do you think you should get out early in light of the serious and horrific nature of this crime? And in light of the fact that you do have a release date that no matter what, you're going to get out on that date. So why would you think that you should be released early instead of being required to serve out full balance of your sentence?
Ms. Jackson, in my defense, I only can say that I've come a long way. But first, not like talking about me, I want to acknowledge the family by saying how very truly and remorseful I am in this situation. This was a very unnecessary and horrific, tragic crime that happened. I'm not going to no way try to cheat myself out of owning up to my responsibilities and my participation in this. Had I, had I had a chance to even come close to stopping this, and again, not trying to take away from any guilt of me being, but if I just had the chance to even try to stop this incident from happening, I truly believe in my heart that I would have, because this was so very unnecessary.
Explain to me why you didn't have the opportunity to stop it. You were there. You were part of it. You tied the victims up.
Yeah, we tied the victims up with no knowledge.
Wait, you.
I tied the victims up with no knowledge of their life being taken.
Why do you think they were being bound with their hands behind their backs and their feet bound? You were 27 years old. You were in that life, and you knew what was about to go down.
I tied the victims up, ma'am, so we can go out throughout the house and search the house. That's where I was at.
You couldn't have done that while one person was holding him at gunpoint and another person looked throughout the house?
I mean, it was 5 of us, and you had,
that's my point.
It was two guys taking the rims out the house and putting them in the car. I was in the back room of the house searching the house when these shots was fired. It was only one person in the living room with these people, as there was only one weapon in the situation. I was in the back of the house, Ms. Jackson. That's why I said, had I been there present.
So was the victim. So was the victim. And the surviving victim said that he heard a single gunshot come from the room where the victim was shot. So she wasn't shot on the sofa. She was shot in another room.
Ms. Jackson, I'm not trying to debate the fact of the matter, but these three men were shot as I made my way back to the living room. This incident happened in
where was the female victim?
She was still, all right. She hadn't exited the room. She's still in a part of the living room. You have a kitchen door and a door that leads to the room that go into the back to where the bedrooms are. She was still in the section of the living room. She ran across the living room. When she ran across the living room, across my path, I jumped back out of her way. I mean, I was delirious, having made it back to the front and seeing gun smoke in the air and everything, And when
so where was she when she was shot?
In the living room. She was right there before the kitchen door of the living room. As is the men. The men were laying in the middle of the living room, and she was.
And where was she? And where was she?
She was right next to the door of the kitchen of the living room.
Is that where she got shot?
Yeah, that is where she got shot. I saw her.
So not laying on the sofa like you first said.
No, ma'am. After the gunshots, when I came back into the living room, she was running around the living room.
Okay, I'm just repeating what you said. I've been sitting here listening. You said she was laying on the sofa. They brought her, the entire hands behind her. They just had her lay on the sofa with her face down in the sofa. Those were your words, not mine. Those were your words.
House and I tied the men up. That's when she said that she was pregnant. When we first entered the house and I tied the men up, we told her to lay on the couch and put her face in the back of the couch. This was during the course of the robbery. This was during the course of the robbery.
But she got up off the sofa and was running around.
Yeah, she had got up off the couch and running around in the living room, and she came by me when I came into the living room. These 3 men had been shot. She was off the couch now after they were shot. As I said, it was only one.
And at what point did you say, please don't shoot this woman, she's pregnant?
I didn't. I was frozen, Ms. Jackson. I did not.
All right, all right. Thank you, Mr. Turner. That's all I have.
Well, when we first got there, the guys went in and they tied everybody up to search the house.
You go in.
Went in and tied everybody up and they started searching the house. And my fall partner said, here, hold a gun, while he went and searched. And I kept asking questions, asking about my money and give me something, a little bit of something back. And he kept saying, no, I don't have anything, I don't have anything. And all of a sudden, I shot 4 individuals.
I mean, they were bound. They didn't pose any threat to you. So what do you mean all of a sudden you shot? You made a conscious decision to shoot.
I made an unconscious decision, man. Something that should have never happened. I should have never came back to Louisiana.
Well, while we were inside the house, my co-defendant, 2 of my co-defendants and me, we tied the people up while one of my other co-defendants was asking, about his money that he had been robbed for. And we began to search the house, and him and the guy was going back and forth, and it all happened so fast. While I was searching the house in the kitchen area, I heard gunshots. It happened just that fast.
Okay, at this time, no other questions there. I see we have some speakers there. Miss Vivian, if you would unmute your mic, we're going to try to cut it down to about 3 minutes because we have so many people going to be speaking today. Just go ahead and give your statement so we can get move along. Okay, thank you, Miss Vivian.
Let my mom speak first. Yeah, good morning to the committee. My name is Alice
Yes,
Mason.
ma'am.
I'm Robert's mother. And I first like to start off by saying, in the scripture, the Bible says, raise up a child in the way he should go. And when they get old, they won't depart from it. And I like to say to the committee today, that is exactly what I did. Raise Robert the way he should go. And right now, I believe he has brought that scripture to life, to truth. In my heart, I believe he's ready. Over the past years that I visited, wrote, talked to Robert. He said I preached to him, but I talked to him over and over. And I noticed the great change in his life. That when he went in as a boy, now he's a man. And I do believe that he's ready to come out and do what's good and right. Take responsibility, reach out to help somebody else so they won't go down the path that he went down. So this is why I know he's ready. And I'm here to support him spiritually, physically, mentally, financially, and relationship. And I'll do the best I can. And I'd like to thank y'all for giving me a chance to speak.
Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak.
just as my mother has stated, I have also witnessed my brother grow and change tremendously over the years, not in any way taken away from who he once was, but he has changed. My brother and I were like Tom and Jerry, is like I would describe it, as children, and we didn't have the tightest relationship then. But over these years, just seeing how he has changed in the way he thinks, the way he views the world, the way he thinks spiritually, what he expects out of life, what he wants to contribute in life, his passion for life and wanting to give back. He has changed, not just, you know, in being sorrowful, but just also wanting to change other people. You know, I always tell him it's each one reach one type mentality. You may not be able to save entire community, but if you can save one and you can save another, it's kind of like what I do myself. You know, you always try to reach out and help another person, anything that you learn and as you grow. And this is what I've seen happen in my brother. He has helped me so many times over the years. We've been a counselor to one another, and the way that he has been able to counsel me in life, even though he is where he is, he's been a counselor to me over the last 20 years. And he has helped me to grow, and he has helped me to make better decisions in life for myself. And for that reason, I have been able to build a life where I can now offer him some stability to support him on behalf of the entire family. So where if he's allowed to be here, that he has a home, he has transportation, he has employment, so that he can be a viable member to society and he can contribute in a positive manner and be the man that he has become.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I see in opposition today, Ms.
Mr.
Marsha
Wise.
Duhan.
Mr. Wise, just, yes, you're correct.
In opposition speaking is Ms. Marsha Duhan, the victim's family. If you would go ahead and speak, we're limited on time here because of being on the Zoom.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Ms. Marsha.
Okay, my name is Marsha Duhan. I'm Kimberly's Duhan Salva's mother. And I would like to say, Your Honor, oh Lord, I understand Broderick, maternal mama. I'm a mother too. But her son have my daughter's blood on his hands. He had a choice to turn around and help my daughter, and he chose not to. And like they said, he tied them down like some dogs. And my daughter sit on that couch begging for her life and telling them that she was pregnant. And the living room and the den is connected together. He was in another room, he's saying, but everything was connected together. My daughter sit there and begged for her life. When they shot Jack, Charles, and her daddy, his daddy, she feared for her life. That's when she took off running, trying to go to the back door. They grabbed my daughter by her hair and broke her fingers and everything and shot her in the shoulder. And they took off running, but they all had a choice to help save my daughter and Jack. They had one gun, 5 men. They could have told him, no, we're not going to do this. But they chose to go that path. So I figured they got 35 years from killing 4 people. That's less of time. So I'm figuring I would want them to spend all their time in jail. And maybe his change. But my daughter don't have that chance. I don't have a chance to go see my daughter or anything. His mama got a chance to go see him and his sister, even if he have kids. I don't have that. They took my daughter and my grandbaby away from me. So I want them him to spend his full term in there. Because it's
Okay,
nothing,
thank you, Ms. Mark.
okay.
Also, we have a speaker, Mr. David Duhan, the victim's family today would be speaking. Go ahead, sir. Unmute your mic.
How you doing? I'm David Duhan. I'm Kimberly Duhan Solver's brother. With everything that's going on, like my mom, Mr. Turner took a big portion of our life away from us. And it's nothing nobody can do or say about it. Like they're gone. They're never coming back. He, like she said, his parents and sister family have the opportunity to go visit and see him and still talk to him over the phone. My sister was my best friend. I never did nothing without my sister. I moved out of that house 2 days before my sister got killed. I lived in that house, and it's hard for me to do anything because that's all I remember is my sister. Like right now I'm 39 years old. I was 18 when my sister got killed. To this day, I still have no friends at all. Cause that was my only friend that I had. She would never come back. And my life would never be the same since, And it's just for them to try to get out on parole early and everything, I really don't. I think that this shouldn't be accountable, because you still have your life, even though you're spending it behind walls. You still have your life. You're still breathing and everything. My sister's not.
Okay, Mr. David, we appreciate your statement there. At this time, Katrina Chambers will be speaking from the victim's family.
Yes, this is Katrina Chambers. I am the sister of Harold Sarver, who was killed first. I am also the daughter of the surviving victim, which I have now lost my father and my mother due to this because of the grief that they had to go through. So no, I don't feel Mr. Broderick needs to be released early. 35 years is an easy sentence because his mom and dad and his siblings and sisters and brothers, they can visit him. He took away my nephew's dad. I had to raise them. They were 4 and 6 when y'all decided to go in there that night. And like Mr. Duhorn said, he had a choice. He could have walked away, but he tied him up. And regardless if he was in another area of the house or whatever, when he heard that first gunshot, that was his chance to run. But he did not run. He stayed there, and like the cowards they ran back home to Texas and did a whole manhunt to search for these gentlemen. And if it was not for my father, we wouldn't have known who have done this. So I don't believe he deserves to be released early. I believe that he needs to do the whole 35 years and be accountable for what he done. He'll be home in another 10 years, and I believe that he should wait.
Okay, thank you very much there. At this time, no other one to be speaking here. At this time, Mr. Turner, anything you'd like to say to the board?
First, I'd like to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to speak to the victim's family in my show and to tell them how very sorry I am, remorseful I am in this situation. There are some decisions that could have been made in this incident, this crime, that wasn't made. I was dismayed at the same time and not trying to shy away from the situation, but I was delirious at the time myself.
If you would, talk closer to the mic, or somebody needs to turn the volume up over there.
Can you hear me, Mr. Wise?
Yeah, speak loud and clear. Slide it over there to you or something so you can speak loud and clear.
I'll hold it here, sir. I was speaking concerning the victim's family and not trying to shy away from the situation or anything. I'm understanding fully what they're saying. about I had a choice and things of this nature. I have never been in an incident like this here and wished I hadn't, but I was. And at the time of this situation, as I said, I was delirious and dismayed myself, having never been in anything like this. I wanted to tell them again how very sorry I am and remorseful I am that this even happened and I participated in this. Since this incident, speaking of myself and the way that I've grown spiritually in maturity and equip myself with these things to not even to have the mindset to not even look at it, traveling down these types of roads, doing these types of wrongs, living in this manner. I take out every day as I've accomplished a lot here in the time that I've been here to build my character as a person, to be trusted, to be relied upon, to carry out responsible things here at the time that I've been here. I've equipped myself and surrounded myself with my family and continue to keep myself in positive environments and taking my best foot forward to go through these things.
All right.
I like to
Thank you very much. Ms. Jane Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Turner admits fully his participation in this horrific crime. He pled guilty and received his sentence with the stipulation that he would testify against Charles Winfrey and he would cooperate fully in any future prosecutions. Mr. Turner has now served approximately 60% of his sentence. In that time, I know that the warden didn't give input, but he is a trustee. He's worked for the warden. He works in administration right now. He's worked at the warden's house. He has jobs that indicate a very high level of trust in addition to the college degree and courses that were mentioned. He also has completed a parenting course. He has a low risk of recidivism under Tiger. He's an active participant in his church. He's attended NAAA meetings, a year long of NOBTS, as he mentioned. He has also participated for 15 years as a coach and participant in sporting events, mentoring younger people on the softball team, traveling around to different facilities. All of that indicates a great change that's occurred in Mr. Turner throughout the last 21 years. If he is granted release, he has a interstate parole agreement that has been approved to his sister's house in Georgia. He's not going back to Texas. He is not staying in Louisiana. He has an approved ICOTS to Georgia to live with his sister and who is going to provide employment and to help care for his 87-year-old mother. We would submit that Mr. Turner is in, this is a good time to release Mr. Turner, considering he has a low risk of recidivism, considering he has tremendous family support that is behind him, and also considering all of the programs and the accomplishments that he has been able to achieve in the last 21 years. So we would ask this board to grant Mr. Turner release with any conditions that are deemed appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, be voting be Ms. Bonnie Jackson.
Mr. Turner, you have accomplished a lot. You really have. You had a rocky start with the write-ups. You got a contraband conviction while incarcerated. You've taken some good programs. You've done some work on yourself. But sometimes, Mr. Turner, what you have done can't possibly outweigh the crime. We don't always look at the crime itself, because we know all of them, for the most part, are horrible. But this one is particularly egregious. 4 people were shot, and had one not pretended to be dead, we'd have 4 victims. 3 people were murdered. You were allowed, for your own self-interest, shall we say, to testify, and you got a single 35-year sentence. for actively participating in the death of 3 people. You are only 49 years old and you have a good time release date in 2029. I just can't say that the amount of time that you have served on this crime is sufficient in light of the magnitude of the harm that you have caused so many people and these families. You are in a place, and I'm glad you've grown, I'm glad you've accomplished some things, but you are surrounded by people where you are that can benefit from your mentoring, your instruction, your helping. You don't have to be outside to help. People inside need help just as much as those outside.
Yep.
But for me today, I'm not ready to say that 21 years is sufficient for taking 3 lives. In light of the strong victim opposition, Mr. Turner, my vote today is to deny.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for
Mr.
hearing me out.
Marabella?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Turner, I echo everything that Judge Jackson has said. You've worked hard. You've done a lot of good, positive things. You're on the right track, but sometimes the crime itself, sometimes the consequences, the grief, the pain that's caused by those crimes, a sufficient sentence has to be served. You were given a tremendous break. I mean, you put yourself at risk by agreeing to testify, but nevertheless, you got a tremendous break. I just, like Ms. Jackson, I just don't think what the time you've done so far is sufficient. Perhaps if you reapply in the next couple of years, but even before your good time date, your result may be different. But today, my vote, based upon law enforcement opposition, victim opposition, and insufficient time served, would be to deny as well.
Thank you, sir.
At this time, I'm gonna be voting. I vote to deny. I am the same as my colleagues here. Hey, you're doing a good job there, but there's some consequences here. You got probably one of the best breaks you could have got. We got strong victims opposition, law enforcement opposition to this release. Thank you very much.
I'm going to keep my unpacking short because, again, we are now fast forwarding to the present day, 12/5/2024, because he's up for parole again. And if you can even imagine that the victim's family, they have to, I mean, where's the DA? It's like 3 people were killed, another one was shot and should have been killed, and a baby about to be born was killed, but who cares? Let's just hand out plea deals like it's, hot chocolate. And hey, when they come up for parole, we don't need to be anywhere in sight because, who really cares that all these people were murdered in cold blood viciously? And it's insane. The victims have to show up. I mean, we covered 3 of the cohort's parole hearings, but this is the reality. This is how insane. I don't know. It's a crazy world, but guess what? He's back. He's back up for parole just a couple years later. So we're gonna watch it and see how this new parole board handles things.
So, Mr. Turner, would you go ahead and tell us right now why you think that you should be released on parole?
Well, good morning to you all there at the parole committee. To answer that question, I couldn't go past the facts of this actual crime and growing as a man that I have today, to be able to live with that regret and that remorse that has been carried with me throughout the very night that crime happened. if you will. Reaching out and thinking about the pain that I caused so many people in their life during this incarceration, day in and day out, and just having that play over and over in my mind. It's just mind blowing when I think about the pain. I think about the ripple effect causing so many people, past mothers and fathers, pain. And I just can't, I try to convey unto you all my feelings in this, having grown at this age that I am now, versus when I was so much younger when this crime happened. And as I said, learning to live with the regret in the way that I have, and being able to look you all in the eyes today with the sorrowfulness that I feel and the remorsefulness that I feel when I think about these families that are suffering through these losses. I think about my daughter here who's with me and my sister and my family, so on, when I think about this crime that I participated in and my actions that left this family in grief for the years that they have. However, Mr. Prater, I've changed, and I've not only changed, I've made a transformation in my life. And to sit before you, and I like to speak about that because that had to be at some point to where they say you get up and you dust yourself off and you begin to move forward. And as I matured and wanted better for myself and wanting better for myself, these things that were said here in this facility that helped me along that in this rehabilitative process, allowing me to become the best version that I can be of myself to this very day. Changes that I've made in these classes that I say mentioned, you know, and getting out of those classes, the things that I've gotten out of. I'm talking about each and every class that I've taken. There was a lesson or something that was taught in that class that I could either decipher and apply to my life in a positive manner, in that in which I've done. And I'm standing on that, and I've stood on that since I started making these changes to myself, wanting better and willing to be a better person. I don't want to stop and say too much, but I'm hoping that I can convey without going past the facts in my actions and the things that I've accomplished and acquired here. Wanting to work, you all on the committee, I could say there was a time that I could care less about a job. I've been working as a trustee the past 5 years, and in that I've carved out me a regimen and a schedule. Before I'm in bed, I already have my clothes for me. You know what I'm saying? And when I'm up and I'm going to work, I'm thinking about the initiatives on the jobs that I'm assigned. Those people that assign me to these jobs, just trying to show you in a mature-like manner and the man that I've become. If I'm awarded a job from a warden or a colonel, and with respect to him, how should I carry that job out with respect to me? That's the things that I look at now in becoming a man. You know what I'm saying? Being responsible. I think when you commit a crime and come to jail, that you lose the sense of responsibility, reliability, trustworthiness, integrity. These things that I step out on and stand on every day as I approach my job and my dealings with people. These people, they go home to society every day. And these things that I could never say before when I was much younger, but I can say that today, that I have changed in that manner. I've attended various classes, but I want to speak if allowed. There's a victim impact class. And what allowed me to see the impact of my crime so much was the way, if I could, she's not here, but the facilitator, Ms. Moore. She came in and opened up and shared with that class. And that in turn, she shared an incident that happened in her life. And that in turn allowed me, I can't speak for nobody in that class, but for me, it allowed me to open up and begin to speak about this crime that I participated in. And in so many ways, I retained information. I didn't or couldn't look past to see how many people that was hurt. You know what I'm saying? All I saw was, man, I'm sorry for what I did, you know what I'm saying? And I think about it. And I know that if that was my mom or that my sister, I did see how I felt bad. But when you start thinking about the financial, the physical, the emotional, and religious impact that we sometimes discuss in that class, then you start to get a greater volume of understanding of the impact that you've caused when these things happen. And, you know, I thank Ms. Morgan for that because she conveyed these things to us in that class so well. And that's why I can sit before you and expound about it. And it was part of my change, you know, coming from something as horrible as that was, and looking back all those years and standing here and sitting here before y'all at 52 years old, you change, you transform, but is it going to be for the best or is it going to be for the worst? My plans, if granted parole today, are surrounded by wanting to be participated in a group. I'm going to Georgia if released, where my sister stays at, and they talked to several parole people there by being a new state that I would be going to, and they would help me get into certain programs there as we've tried to go on and Google certain programs. So that would be my first approach as far as coming home, because I need to get, I would feel that I needed to get adjusted to society in that manner from other views and aspects that may, you know, taking place from people that was incarcerated. Okay, I have my support system in place. I have my daughter here. I have my sister. I have my wife that's on Zoom. My mother, who's almost 90 years old. My brother, who drives trucks, that couldn't be here today. He's on the road. These people have been a vital part of my incarceration during this time and are ready to stand there with me and embrace me morally and with love in any kind of way that they can. As I end again, I chose Georgia because my sister's been there for 30 years in my conclusion, and she's well established in the community, and she's also established in the workforce. This will in turn allow me, if you have the paperwork for you, that I would be fully and gainfully employed if released from jail today. I'd like to thank y'all for letting me speak.
Thank you, sir. You articulate very well your feelings, and I appreciate that. Warden, what kind of fellas he been in jail?
Well, Mr. President, like you said, he articulated very well. You know, Broderick, you know, first, again, as always, my sympathies to the victims and the families. You know, this was a terrible crime. I think that's, you know, we all know that. We all realize that. You know, in conversation with Broderick over the years and yesterday, he shows remorse for what he's done. Like many other young men, when he first came to prison, he had a lot of trouble with his conduct and, you know, adjusting to incarceration. But you know, I would say in the last 8 years, he's made a great turnaround. He really has, and I've been very impressed with him. I'm very proud of him. I appreciate him speaking about Ms. Morgan in our victim impact class. You hear me speak about it all the time. I don't think, you know, maybe the board doesn't realize how impactful that class is and how great of a facilitator Ms. Morgan really is. She does a great job with that, and it impacts a lot of lives here. And I'm proud of her for that. But he's taken, you know, numerous classes, substance abuse programs. He has an associate's degree from Wiley College. You know, after he got his GED while incarcerated, he's just done a lot of good things. And as he mentioned, he's a trustee. You know, he's turned his life around. And he's doing very well. Doing very well. Proud of him for his achievements.
Thank you for those words, Warden. Okay, let's hear from Vivian Mosley. She's on Zoom, and that's your sister. Vivian, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine. Thank you. And we're ready to hear what you have to say. If you would, say it as succinctly as possible, and let's try to limit it to 2 points. Like that.
I can try to. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on the chat. As you use the release, he has served in and the one has stated well, he's demonstrated his ability to be worldwide outside of prison. He has voted himself mentally, emotionally, academically, and spiritually. As someone with no young, I like to see it, and we have friends
Yes, sir. Thank you for all again, as we all said, for allowing me to speak on behalf of my father. So for me, I just want to say that he has grown. I didn't get to know him as the young man he was from the terrible mistakes that he did make. When I entered into his life, or he entered into mine at the age of 11, from there, I have saw and still continue to witness his growth, his mindset changing, just the man that he wants to be and set out to be, the man that he's determined to be. He puts his mind to something that he says, and that's what it's gonna be. So I know that when he says that he's changed and he wants to do better and is gonna be better once granted the release to come home, I know that he set his mind to do that. So that's something that he wants to show you guys, the gratitude and his remorse. He is very remorseful and continue to show his remorse every day. He's done tremendous things in here. I'm proud of his accomplishments and continue to be proud of him for things that he's gonna continue to do. The support that my family gives him, the love that we have, and is ready to just push him in the right direction, continue to push him in the right direction. His accountability.
All right, didn't mean to interrupt you in the middle of a sentence. I thought you were through.
Yeah, I was just taking to see if she was all right. I was afraid.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, now it's time for us to ask questions as a board. And I might add, for purposes of the recording, that Yvonne Turner is also on Zoom. And so just wanted to mention that. Okay, Mr. Turner.
Yes, sir.
Could I get the staff to put him up in front of me, please? Okay, there you are. Okay, it's as we do these cases, each case is assigned a particular person to ask the beginning questions, then we all can ask questions, and then we vote. I'm the lead on this one, so I just want to, what part did you play in this horrible crime where these three people were shot, taped up, shot, and the home was invaded? What part did you play in that?
Well, my part came after, like I'm saying, Mr. Prater, there was what led to this happening in my part solely was I helped come in during the commission of a robbery to retrieve money back. So what I did was came in and helped tie the people up and dispersed out throughout the house to search for these valuables and retrieve them. It's which time, while in search of these here, the gun was discharged. When I made it back up front, in the front of the house, the people were already shot. They were scared, I was scared, everybody froze for a minute and took off running out the house. This stems from automatically a drug deal that went bad prior to this actual crime, where one of my co-defendants that's on this charge with me now was robbed. Sometime later, we came to lay charge there to visit some people, and another mutual friend was down there that knew the guy that robbed him. That conversation came up, and at that time, it was a decision rendered between all of us, and we did go by that house. But my actions were just as what I said. When we got in the house, that's exactly what I did.
Okay, so, but partly because of your reactions, though, as you know, but just purposes of our discussion, there were three people killed, and the lady that died was pregnant. Is that correct?
The lady that died was what, Mr. Prater? I didn't hear you.
Yes, wasn't there a lady that died and she was pregnant?
Yes, sir, it was.
And so actually 4 people died as a result of that. And you pled out to manslaughter, 3 counts of manslaughter, and you were given 35 years on each count, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, to run concurrent. And how many years have you served?
Just about right at 24 years.
Okay. All right, I don't have any other questions. Ms. Stapleton, you got some questions?
Yeah, so you said that your job was to tie people up. So you did know that, I mean, I read somewhere, the lady, did y'all put her on a couch face down? Was she tied up?
No, she was not tied up.
She was on the couch though, face down.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there was a statement made by a person that says, well, they're gonna recognize us. So,
we're gonna have to kill him because they're gonna call the police. Where were you when that statement was made?
Through footage, I heard that, it was said, I was in the back room. Whatever statements was read, all I can remember, I think it was Terrence hollered out, man, you're gonna have to do them all or something like this. Yeah, I was coming back, and that was after the gun had already been initially discharged.
They said, the survivor said that he heard a struggle between Kimberly and one of the suspects, and she had asked to think about the baby. So there was a struggle that ensued, and you didn't hear any of that either?
No, ma'am. This is what happened.
Okay.
When I came up to the front of the house, the young lady hadn't been shot.
Right.
Terrence and Charles Winfrey, seemingly the gun had jammed, and they was wrestling with the gun. They took out towards the young lady and grabbed, Terrence took out toward the young lady and grabbed the young lady, and Charles shot the young lady. If that was the struggle that was to ensue, that's what happened.
You said charged at the young lady. You mean shot the young lady because she was killed and the baby died too?
No, I said Terrence took out after and grabbed her by her arm, and Charles Winfrey. Winfrey shot her.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am. I did. I came to the front of the house by then. So
Okay, and you said that you were so much younger. What age were you when this foolish
I want to say I was 27. I want to say I was 27, just about to make 28.
So you were 27 when that happened. And I know what you mean. I really do when you say, we all say this kind of stuff, that you reached the point in your life where you decided you had to get up and dust yourself off and move forward with your life. I know what you mean about that. And I know you don't really mean anything bad by that, because that's common saying that we have in the South. But victims to become survivors, they say the same thing. They try their best
Yes, ma'am.
to get up and move forward past the crime. So, and they, for the most part, aren't able to get up and dust themselves off and
Yes, ma'am.
stop crying about it. Let's see if I had any other questions. Yeah, just that the charges was amended for you from 3 counts of first-degree murder and attempted murder, which was dropped, and first-degree feticide, which was dropped.
Yes,
and then you got instant offense of 3 counts of manslaughter. So, so really served a lot less time. You were given a lot less time than you would have. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Mr. Burrow?
You asked the one question that I needed to know about.
Yes, sir.
No, his involvement, I have no question.
Okay, all right, we've all asked the questions we need to, and now it's time for us to vote. And Mr. Turner, you seem like you seem like a likable fellow. I think that you've said all the right things that you could possibly say. The main thing that's bothering me is the amount of time that you got, a total of 3 times 35, over 100 years if you added them together. And I understand they'd run concurrent, but you hadn't served near about that. Your good time today, you're going to get out in 2029 anyway. And I know that's a long time from now if you're in jail. Okay, so I'm not minimizing that, oh, it's just you're going to get out anyway. But I just don't think, compared to the crime that was done, and I don't think that you're really a danger, but we've got some opposition. We got a judge that's opposed. We have 2 DAs wrote letters, 2 sheriffs that wrote letters, and the attorney general all opposed to your release. And I'm just to cut through all the words or sermons or anything else. I want to see you do some more time. And you've done the right things. I want to encourage you. You said the right things. You're a likable guy. I'd go fishing with you. But I think that out of 35 years for 4 people being dead, and you've only served 20 something, I think my vote is to deny. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Yes, sir.
And I concur with Mr. Prater. My vote is to deny.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And I concur with Mr. Prater and Ms. Stapleton. It's a serious crime, and the amount of time you did just doesn't equal up to
Yes, sir.
4 people dead.
Yes, sir.
Keep your head up, Mr. Turner. You're an awful likable guy, okay? And I appreciate your family coming down. I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and lead everybody out there in that facility. And Warden, thank you for hosting us on this, but that's going to conclude this hearing at 1:01 p.m. on December the 5th, 2024. End of hearing.
You know, and that was quick. And I don't know why the victims weren't there. Maybe they're just tired. You know, it is so draining. You hear about it over and over, just how draining it is. And it's, you know, they say here that the DAs, they wrote letters. Well, good for them. They wrote letters about time, right? They're too busy to show up on a call and talk about it. But, you know, it was interesting also how the sheriff said, well, you actually killed 4 people. And I'm not sure how Louisiana looks at that law. And I know that that's a big topic of discussion in law and how things like that are handled. And I'm sure every state has their own way of looking at it. It's so different. This parole board and the other parole board, what I'm realizing is that the old parole board, they really like to go through the process of going through the information, of understanding exactly what happened, and they just don't do that. And I'm not sure why. They don't think it's important, or they've already made up their decision. So in that case, they're not going through it. But the old parole board, it's something I think we took for granted, how they would really go into the details, even if they thought maybe they had made up their mind. They don't do that now. It's just different. You know, I wasn't going to do this, but I think what we're going to do is actually jump into one of his cohorts' parole hearings. It's led by Mr. Marabella. And what's interesting about this is that he was convicted of killing a man while he was in jail waiting for this sentence. And that's going to be brought up. So here's a man that pleads to killing 3 people, and then while in jail waiting for the sentence, pleads to a 4th murder.
This is a matter of Nathaniel M. Smith, DOC number 476447. He's a 4th-class felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of March the 25th of 2024, an adjusted good time date of May the 31st of 2031, and a full-term date of April the 14th of 2036. He is currently serving a 35-year, 6-month sentence on the charges of manslaughter, having been sentenced on February the 13th of 2004, and contraband, having been sentenced on November the 22nd of 2022. Mr. Smith, is that information all accurate?
Yes, sir, it is.
Mr. Smith, your case has been assigned to me, so I will be beginning our interview process. Mr. Smith, how old are you, sir?
I'm 44 years old.
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
I've been in prison 22 years, and February will make 23.
Bless you. Tell me a little bit about, so you were, what, 22 when this happened, about?
21.
21? Let's talk a little bit about who Nathaniel Smith was at 21 years old. Tell me what was going on in your life at that time. How much education did you have at 21 years old?
Well, at 21 years old, I dropped out of school around the 11th grade. When I was going to the 12th, I didn't complete. And
why did you drop out?
I was doing the wrong things, getting high on drugs and running with the wrong crowd.
Okay. Were you working at all?
No, sir, not at the moment. I wasn't working.
What kind of drugs were you using?
Well, I smoked marijuana and PCP.
And when did you start smoking marijuana?
About the age of 12.
How often were you smoking marijuana at 12?
Probably on weekends when I would go away, you know, to friends.
Did you progress to more regularly use of marijuana?
As I got older, yes, sir.
And when did you start using marijuana more often? And how often were you using it?
Well, I started smoking marijuana on an everyday basis around when I reached the age of about 14 when I got into high school.
So the whole time you were in high school, you were pretty much smoking marijuana every day?
Yeah, when I wasn't at school, yes.
Was that affecting your grades? Is that part of the reason why you talked about hanging with the wrong crowd and doing crazy things? Is that part of the reason why you dropped out of school?
It's definitely a part of the reason why. Yes, sir.
When did you start using PCP?
I'm gonna say when I was about 18 years old.
And how often were you using PCP?
When I started, maybe like on weekends when I would go to the club, but then it progressed over the years into a daily routine.
Were you how were you living? How were you existing at 21 years old? How were you getting money to eat?
I was selling drugs. I was dealing drugs on the street.
So tell me a little bit about what happened on December the 6th of 2000, for which you find yourself in prison for now. Tell me what happened.
Okay, well, the night that my crime occurred, I was with a friend and he got a phone call. He had been
Let
robbed.
me back you up a little bit. Where were you and your friend at?
We were in Houston. We were in Houston, Texas.
Okay, go ahead.
We were in our neighborhood and he got a call from a friend that was already in Louisiana that was from our neighborhood who had abreasted him that he had met with the guy who robbed him on a previous date. And he said he was at some girl's house and he offered to meet up with the guy to see if he could get some of the money back that he had been robbed for. And we rode down to meet with the friend who had met with the guy who robbed for the drugs.
Were y'all using marijuana? Were y'all using any drugs at that time?
Yes, sir. I recall we were.
Okay. So what happened when you got back to Louisiana?
Well, when we got to Louisiana, we went to some girl's house to meet with them. And once we got over there, we didn't stay long because one of my co-defendants, he was supposed to get the guy to meet us at a gas station. So to discuss whether he was gonna come up with the money that my friend had been robbed for, but it didn't turn out that way. He never answered the phone. And we wind up riding to the guy's house. And my co-defendant knocked on the door. And when he knocked on the door, him and the guy got in a tussle. And before I knew it, two other guys drove up on the scene. And at that time, me and three other of my partners, we got into a physical altercation with them, and we brought them all inside of the house, and it turned into a robbery scene.
Okay. And then what happened from the robbery? How did someone get killed? What happened?
Well, while we were inside the house, two of my co-defendants and me, we tied the people up while one of my other co-defendants was asking, about his money that he had been robbed for. And we began to search the house, and him and the guy was going back and forth, and it all happened so fast. While I was searching the house in the kitchen area, I heard gunshots. It happened just that fast.
So you realized you were involved in a robbery. You understood that. That was part and parcel of what you were doing.
I did realize that, sir.
And then you heard gunshots, and I think everybody tended to agree that Charles Winfrey was the guy who actually did the shooting. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
That's your understanding?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Winfrey and Mr. Turner both pled guilty. Did you plead guilty or did you go to trial?
I pled guilty as well, sir.
Let's talk a little bit about your prior history. What other crimes, what other charges have you had in the past? You are fourth felony offender. Tell me about some of the other charges that you've had.
Well, the last charge that I just picked up last year in 22 was a contraband.
We'll talk about the contraband. I'm talking about before you came to prison.
Before I came to prison, I have unauthorized use of a motor vehicle.
Okay.
Which is when you in Texas, when you rent a car from a drug deal, if you get arrested in the car, then that's considered a unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. So if I rent someone's car for drugs, that's what that is. And another time I have an organized crime, which is when you stealing cars with several people and y'all steal cars for fixed parts on cars and dealing of that sort.
Now, I noticed on your record as well, you pled guilty to an amended charge of negligent homicide. What was that about?
When I was in the parish for this charge, I was in the cell with a guy and we were tier reps, and him and the guy got into an altercation in the cell upstairs, and him and the guy had a fight. When they was fighting in the cell, he hit the guy's head against the wall. I was there to break it up. I was already incarcerated for this charge. And by me just being there, being in the cell when it took place to breaking up the fight, I was charged with negligent. I was charged with second-degree murder, but the charges got amended to negligent homicide.
So you pled guilty to a negligent homicide while you were in prison?
While I was in the parish, yes, sir.
Why did you plead guilty to the charge if you were trying to break up the fight?
Because I was already incarcerated for this right here, and the way that the DA worked the deal out, it was for me to get rid of the second-degree murder, along with all the trouble I was already in. It was a good deal for me to not have to face a life sentence, and that was the decision I made because I did what was best to try to not get a life sentence.
Now, you pled to this charge all at the same time. So you got, while you were awaiting trial for your second-degree murder charge or your manslaughter charge, that's when this other manslaughter charge, second-degree murder, came up. While you were in prison waiting trial on your charge, you got charged with second-degree murder in prison.
Yes, sir.
And as a result of the plea, you pled to both separate charges, one involving the one in prison and one involving the one you just described. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about what you've accomplished and what you've done while you've been in prison. You've lost 561 days of good time. Why is that?
Yes, sir. When I first came to prison, sir, I was still young. I didn't have no sense of direction. I really was just I was disobedient. I didn't like to listen to what the people said. So sometimes I would not follow the rules, and I didn't understand about being in prison, that it was for to rehabilitate you and make you a better person. I just thought that my life was over. I had 35 years and I really didn't care about following the rules. At some days I just didn't care, and it didn't matter because I never thought I was going to get out of prison at that point.
Well, you've had several write-ups not long ago. Talk to me about those.
Yes, sir. The last write-up that I had was, I believe, in 22, and it was for a cell phone. And at the prison, whenever I was at that I just left from, they didn't have visitation at that time, and my father was had just passed. I had a lot of things going on with my family, and I had access to using the guy's phone, and eventually it led me from using it to wanting to buy it, and I got it, and I got caught with it. I pled guilty, and I got a charge for it, and I just tried to move on for it. I shouldn't have had it. I should have never.
You didn't just get caught with a cell phone. You tried to swallow the SIM card. Why?
Well, I didn't want to get anybody else in trouble for something that I had, because I had bought the phone from another guy, and I know that his information was on it as well as mine, and I just tried to diffuse it by just swallowing it and getting rid of it.
Well, I'm looking at your disciplinary history. In 2021, you had two separate write-ups for aggravated disobedience. In 2021, you had a 30C, a general prohibited behavior. And then in 2022, you had two write-ups for contraband, one on the 26th and one on the 28th. One of them was a cell phone, what was the other thing?
SIM card. It was the SIM card. They wrote me up for the SIM card and the phone.
What programs that you have taken while you've been in prison have been for you?
But I've taken several programs that's made me a better person. I took anger management, recovery dynamics. I took NAAA for years, and I took stress management, all the substance abuse programs that they had to offer here at Allen Correctional Center and at Raymond LaBorde. And I also have vocational trades, automotive trade, and I completed my high set. I finished my education, and I've been a part of sports club SCA since I've been back at this facility, and I was a part of it before. And what they do is they teach you how to help the community around you through sports, and it gets some of the guys at the prison to use their idle time and channel their energy into sports and being more of a brotherhood, and help people try to stay out of trouble. And that's what I've been giving a lot of my time to the community here, and giving back and trying to be a role model.
What is your plan? What's your transition plan if you were to be released? Where are you going to be living?
I'll be living with my cousin, which we grew up in the same house. He's like my brother. His name is David. He couldn't be here today. He drives trucks, and he has his own business. He gets cars from the auction and fixes them. I'll be working on his cars and helping them sell them. And my sister also has a business where I'll be making things for her. She sells things. I make leather. I do purses, bags, belts, and I make benches out of wood. I learned that skill too at Cotton Port. And I don't have a trade in welding, but I also have skills in welding. So I'll be trying to incorporate all that together with my cousin.
Where will you be working and living at?
I'll be working probably for my uncle, because I worked for him before.
What city? Town? Where at?
Houston, Texas.
So you want to go back to Houston, Texas? That's what I.
That's what my family is.
Try to get there. Have you filled out any kind of paperwork to see if you'll be accepted to go there?
Well, my uncle has a tree service. I worked for him before, and I'll be working for him. And he has an automotive shop where he works, and I'll be working with him to stay busy as well. He's here to speak on my behalf today.
Tell me what your plan is to stay sober.
Well, my plan to stay sober is I want to continue taking NAAA, and I want to continue just staying away from the wrong crowd and the wrong areas, because if you're in the wrong environment, old things that you used to get into tend to come back up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to channel my energy into helping the youth and society so that young kids don't grow up and follow the footsteps and the mistakes that I made. and I want to try to help them because I had great people in my life that tried to lead me in the right direction. I just didn't take heed of it. It took something so dramatic like this to get me in a situation for me to mature and realize that I was on the wrong path. But now I just completed another class here at this facility, which is a great class that I want to be a part of. It's called Boys to Men because it resonates with me so well because if I had been a leader and a man at that point, I could have stopped all of this from happening. I could have told my friend, Mr. Winfrey, man, we shouldn't go and meet with somebody that robs you. You know, in the past, we should just leave it alone. But I didn't speak up, and I just being a follower and went along, being cool, I thought at the time. So now I realize that being a leader, you should, lead in the right direction and, have good.
Have you ever had any long-term substance abuse treatment? I mean, I know you've had some education classes, done some AA meetings. Have you ever had any long-term substance abuse treatment?
No, sir.
You think that's something that you need or could use?
It's definitely something I could use that I do need it. Because I'm in prison in a controlled environment, but I know in the free world it's a lot different and you have more temptation.
You've got some good awareness. That's a good thing. I think that your institutional record, I note that it was noted that your institutional record is poor, but getting better. Do you know what that's about? What would you say to that?
Well, I would say that in prison, sometimes some situations you can't control and you happen to get caught up. But for the most part, I know my disciplinary history became better because in the last 5-6 years, I only have a few write-ups and I just made poor choices. But I always continue to educate myself and stay in a positive manner. And I've been a trustee at this facility and the other facility. And at the other facility, I worked in the free world and I had a chance to do some things at the community college and meet some people. And I had a feel for society. And I just know that if I get a chance, I'll be able to be a good advocate for the youth and society. That's what I want to do. I want to help kids. I want to give back to the kids and try to help them.
Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir. Smith is doing pretty good. He really is. He got a pretty good head on his shoulder. I've been around Smith for quite a few years, being here at Allen Correction Center and being at Raymond Board as well. Currently now here, he's actually working our maintenance shop. He's doing a lot of work on the mechanic, working on the vehicles here, and he's doing a real good job with that. My biggest concern with Smith is I really believe he can use as much long-term substance abuse as possible. He's been incarcerated for a good period of time now, for 23 years. I mean, he admitted his own self, trying to be prepared for society. He really gonna need the tools to be successful.
Thank you, Warden. Appreciate your comments. Any questions? Now let's hear from your supporters. Let's hear from Nathaniel Moses Smith, your nephew. Mr. Smith, Nathaniel Moses Smith, you there? All right. Mr. Smith, is there anything that you'd like to say before the board votes?
Yes, sir. I just want to say thank y'all for giving me the opportunity, whatever the outcome may be. And if I were to make parole, I'm going to go into society and I won't let y'all down. I'm going to give back to the community on the outside, what I've been doing on the inside, and that's helping younger brothers and trying to help them rehabilitate themselves. And, I want to do that for some people in the free world, some young brothers that can stop, the violence and coming to prison, because I know I could be a good, positive role model and somebody productive in society if I get a chance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Mrs. Panel, ready to vote? Mr. Smith, you have done well. You did a very good interview today. I think that you did well for yourself today. I think we all agree that you are moving in the right direction. I think that you have some great support when you ultimately get out. You've got some disciplinary issues. You still have some disciplinary issues. You've had a number of write-ups in the last several years that concern me. I understand what you say about the SIM card and swallowing it and that sort of thing, but that bothers me. That's violating the rules.
Yes, sir.
I think the warden and I are on the same page when we talk about your need for substance abuse. It's important that you get some long-term substance abuse treatment. I think that you are moving in the right direction. I just think today is not the day for me. I'd like to see you get into some long-term substance abuse program. I would like to recommend maybe we could send you to Steve Hoyle or something like that. And if you could get that program, stay disciplined there, write up free for a substantial amount of time and reapply. If I'm still around here, I would likely vote for you. But today my vote is to deny, but to encourage you to continue to move forward the way you've been working. I'm one of 3 votes. Ms. Wise?
Mr. Smith, I could, you have done well today. I'm like, when I listen to you talk, I'm like, what is he doing in jail? He just shouldn't be there. You're a bright young man, but like you said, you were a follower. You just didn't. I concur with my colleague. Don't hear no, just hear not yet. Just not yet, not today. My vote is to deny as well. And the things you want to do for the young people, you have to be it. You have to be it consistently. That means when somebody offers you a cell phone, because you are trying to be an example, no thank you. I just wait and go through the proper channels and make my calls. I can sacrifice, I can do without. That's what the young people need to see. And you have to be it before you can show somebody else how to be where you're trying to get them to go. And I encourage, I'm a document, and I encourage you to reapply when you're eligible for a rehearing. Stay right up for you. Best wishes to you, sir. And I appreciate your family for showing up today, and hope they stay on your corner.
Thank you.
I listen to what both of my fellow board members have to say, and I do agree with them. And if you did come back up, I would also most likely vote for you. So what I do is I encourage you to try to get into the Steve Hall program. I put it on my paper for you to go there, and once you finish that, you'll be getting close to time to reapply. And we'll see what happens next time. Thanks your family for coming. Oh, also, if you when it gets time to reapply, get with the warden and do your interstate compact, so we'll know if you accepted to Texas.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Smith, although you've been denied, and as the spot said, I want you to hear, just not today. You're well on your way. You did a great interview. You've got good support. So work a little harder, and hopefully the next time will be the time. So good luck to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
And we are now going to watch the final parole hearing. The man that pulled the trigger, the man that shot and killed 3 people and nearly killed a 4th. You know, the one who was almost killed, he was shot in the face and played dead. And, you know, he was the one that was ultimately able to pinpoint and say and tell the police who it was that killed him. And this is the crazy thing again about this case is they have someone who goes in there and it's a slaughterhouse. And then the DA hands out plea deals again, like it's hot chocolate, and I don't quite understand it. They had a surviving victim. They had someone who could have said it was him, it was him, it was him. And the DA, they just didn't seem to care. I mean, they viewed it as a drug deal gone bad. That's kind of what it says in the reports, but it just blows my mind. And I think only because of Act 122, this man is now able to get up for parole, even though he killed 3. And the one who we just saw, convicted of killing 3 and convicted of killing someone in prison, 4 people. And they were kind of treating him great, even with his, I thought, pretty intense write-ups. But I don't know, maybe I'm just a sheeple. I don't understand how these things work, really. I also want to point out that I'm fast forwarding through the supporting statements, not because I have so much animosity or anything. I think it's important that we hear supporting statements, but it's because we just don't have a lot of time to run through all these hearings. So in this coming up case, for example, if you want to see the full hearing with the supporting statements, I do have a link to that in the description below. But we are going to jump ahead. So the dates of this hearing, how it worked out, it was the first hearing was 2020, and then of course 2024 for the second part. The hearing we just saw was 2/2 of 2022, and now the hearing that we're going to see for the man who pulled the trigger and did the actual killing is June 8th, 2022. And I think, of course, this is the most dangerous of them. I always have had a little bit of a, if you're not the one that pulled the trigger and you didn't think that the trigger was going to be pulled, I do view you differently than someone who did. I know that the law doesn't view it that way, and many of you might disagree with me, and that's okay. We're not an echo chamber, but let's go back to the Honorable Judge Bonnie Jackson, who has this case, and I'll unpack with his details at the end.
He is currently serving 110 years in prison, having been sentenced for attempted first-degree murder, first-degree feticide, and 3 counts of manslaughter, all on December the 16th of 2003. Mr. Winfrey, is this all accurate?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Winfrey, your case has been assigned to Ms. Bonnie Jackson. Ms. Jackson will begin our interview process. Would you please answer her questions?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Winfrey, how are you today?
I'm doing okay, Ms. Jackson.
Well, I've been assigned your case, so I will start questioning for the board. How old are you, Mr. Winfrey?
I'm 45 years old.
And how long have you been incarcerated on this charge?
21 years.
So you served 21 of 110-year sentence. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, obviously, Mr. Winfrey, I am going to want to talk to you. The board is going to want to hear from you about the events in this case. So I would like for you to tell us what happened in this case.
Myself, along with 4 other individuals, went to Jack's house and I shot 4 people. It wasn't meant to happen. I take full responsibility for it.
But I don't want to hear about the full responsibility. We'll move to that part later, okay? But
Yes,
I want
ma'am.
to talk more about the specifics of the crime. Because I'm going to be frank with you, and perhaps I speak with my fellow board members. This was a horrific crime.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you come from Houston? Did you drive over from Houston to commit this crime, or did you leave Houston and come to Louisiana prior to committing this crime?
I drove all the way from Houston.
Okay. You drove in that very day?
Yes, ma'am.
And
At night.
what was your purpose for coming to Baton Rouge or Louisiana, rather?
I had been called by a friend of mine to come down because he was telling me that he was gonna get my money back because there was a situation between us at the beginning of that year where I was robbed. So I was coming to try and get my money back.
Robbed by whom?
robbed by Jack and Mr. Saul were one of the victims, and a couple more other guys at the.
Rob Howe.
I was robbed at gunpoint, held in the backyard for 7 hours till the next morning. That happened in February, I believe.
Did you call the police and report the incident to the police?
No, ma'am, I should have.
Why did you?
I had walked away from the incident and just gave up on it and let it go.
Obviously not, though. Was this drug activity, Mr. Winfrey? Sounds like this was drug activity.
Yes, ma'am, it was drugs.
Why you wouldn't call the police if you were involved in drug activity along with the victims in this case? That fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you come to Louisiana that night specifically to address this issue. How did you plan to address it?
I had one of my co-defendants were already down here, and he just asked me to come and help him.
Help do what?
He just wanted me to be there, just in case he needed help trying to get the money back on the drug.
What was the plan to get the money back? Right? You're not telling me. I mean, you're going to go to his house and knock on the door and say, sir, can we have our money back? I don't think that doesn't sound like that was a likely scenario.
No, ma'am. We was going to eventually try to rob him and get the money back.
How did you end up shooting 4 people and killing 3?
After being back in that environment and thinking about.
But that night, how did it go from I'm going to get my money back to finding the individuals with their hands behind their backs and shooting them in the head? How did that escalate to that point?
Well, when we first got there, the guys went in and they tied everybody up to search the house.
You go in?
Went in and tied everybody up and they started searching the house, and my fall partner said, "Here, hold a gun," while he went and searched. And I kept asking questions, asking about my money and give me something, a little bit of something back. And he kept saying, "No, I don't have anything, I don't have anything." And all of a sudden, I shot 4 individuals.
I mean, they were bound. They didn't pose any threat to you. So what do you mean all of a sudden you shot them? You made a conscious decision to shoot.
I made an unconscious decision, man. Something that should have never happened. I should have never came back to Louisiana.
Well, how much money did you get as a result of having gone and confronted these individuals? How much money did you recover?
I didn't recover any money at all.
Killed basically for no reason.
Yes, ma'am. This was a crime that should have never happened. It's tragedy, and it has overshadowed my life since that day.
But you were indicted along with your co-defendants for 3 counts of first-degree murder. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you were allowed to plead guilty in agreement to 3 counts of manslaughter, 1 count of attempted first-degree murder, and 1 count of first-degree femicide, because the woman that you all killed, or you killed, was pregnant, and obviously the baby died as a result. But you and your co-defendants were facing the death penalty, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you made a conscious decision to accept a plea agreement that would take that possibility off the table. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it also correct that the victims' families participated in that process, that they agreed to allow you to enter a plea of guilty to manslaughter to what actually were 3 counts of first-degree murder? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Given that, Mr. Winfrey, that you were given that benefit, why do you think you should be able to back out of that agreement by seeking a parole after serving a little over 20 years of a sentence that you agreed to in order to avoid the death penalty?
But man, when the situation happened, I was very young, foolish, and I had no sense of direction. And when I came to DLC, I knew that I had to change my life, so I started getting myself into programs. I got certified, I became a mentor, and I started teaching others.
I understand all the good things that you've done because I have that in my package. But what I'm talking about is, this idea of the deal is a deal. You agreed to plead guilty, get 110 years in prison, and they took the death penalty off the table. They took life imprisonment off the table. How do you think your action today of trying to void that deal, in essence, after having served only 21 years, how do you think that impacts the victim, their families, the whole judicial process? When you were given such I'm gonna be frank with you, I was a judge for 28 years, and if ever there was a first-degree murder case, this is certainly that case. If this was ever a death penalty case, if one believes in the death penalty, that this is certainly that case. And you escaped all of that by being offered this plea, which you accepted, and now, like I said, a little over 20 years later, you're trying to get out of your end of the bargain. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am, but I'm not trying to get out of the end of the bargain.
You trying?
God has changed my life. And I've seen many guys with life sentences that were told that they were not going to go home at all. But then laws changed that allowed these guys opportunities to get a second chance at life. I understand what you're saying about me trying to get out of the situation, man. Honestly, I'm not. I'm just seeking mercy on the board today. I'm truly sorry for my actions. There's nothing that I can do inside of prison, any achievement that I can get to atone for the crimes that I committed.
How about as far as the victims are concerned? Because there are 2 sides in this case. Actually, more. There were 4 people shot, 3 of them died. They all had families. What about them and how it would impact their lives? At this point in your life, you're only 45 years old. If you were to be released when they agreed not to have you face the death penalty. So how do you, what impact do you think that has on them, even going through this process at this time?
I think it's a grave impact upon them because they wasn't expecting to see anything down the road. And I know they have every right to feel the way that they feel because their loved ones is no longer here and they want justice. I understand that. I'm truly sorry for my actions and what I did to cause the pain, hurt, and suffering to everyone.
So you were 24, 25 when it happened?
It's 23, man.
And tell me about your life at age 23. Had you graduated from high school? Were you working? What was your life like at age 23?
I was not working at the moment.
How so in school?
I have my GED. I dropped out in the 10th grade, but I got my GED.
Get your GED.
I got my GED in boot camp in Texas.
All right, that was from a crime at Texas and they sent you boot camp?
Yes, ma'am. I went to a program, got my GED, and was getting
So
my
why did that turn it around for you?
man, would you repeat that?
I said, why didn't boot camp turn things around for you?
It did for a while, and I ended up backsliding and hanging with the wrong people and got involved in a life of crime, something I should have never did. My mama, she taught me, mama raised me up in church, brought me to church every Sunday, Bible studies, vacation Bible school. She brought me up right. She taught me the right way. I deterred. And
Why? I guess I'm trying to figure out why. Do you even know why?
no, ma'am.
When did you start dealing drugs?
At the age of 17, and my life has been unmanageable ever since then. That was the worst mistake I could have ever made. And so many lives have been torn and broken because of my actions. But my mom, my family.
Hang on just a second, sir. We're having some computer problems. So hang on just a second because we can't hear you.
All right.
Love you, bro.
Love you too, man. Thanks.
Please keep your mics muted and refrain from speaking until we get things fixed, please. Thank you. Sir, can we ask you please to not speak during the middle of the hearing process? Muted and refrain from speaking.
Mr. Winfrey, can you hear us now?
Yes, sir.
We can hear you as well. You were interrupted, so I'm going to return it to Ms. Jackson to finish her questioning of you, okay?
Okay.
I asked you, how old were you when you started drug dealing?
At age 17,
And how did you get into drug dealing?
I used to see my cousin. He was dealing drugs, and he had cars and women and stuff like that, and that's how I was influenced.
And so you took up drug dealing around 17. And when did you go to boot camp?
I went to boot camp at 17.
And you got out and eventually went back to your old lifestyle, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I worked for about 1.5 years.
Where and doing what?
I worked at the University of Houston doing irrigation work, and I did labor jobs through a temporary agency. Not really having a trade or any type of education. There was not a lot of good paying jobs.
But when you were in boot camp, did they provide any kind of trade training?
Just exercise. We did a lot of calisthenics.
And they didn't give you any job training in boot camp?
No, ma'am.
What was the crime that you went to boot camp for?
They had violated, my probation had been violated because
That's my point. What were you on probation for?
burglary of a motor vehicle.
Okay. Tell me, how long have you been where you're currently incarcerated?
I've been here at Elaine House for 4 years.
And before then, you were where?
In Angola.
So let's talk about, what you've done since your incarceration. Have you done any vocational education program?
Yes, ma'am. I'm a ASC certified mechanic, NCCR, electrical level 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm a certified tutor. I teach guys the automotive trade. I'm a transition mentor. I teach pre-release classes. I teach other youth offenders about life skills, about making the right decisions and taking the right path in life.
Tell me what programs you've taken that have the most impact on you.
I've taken, anger management has had the most impact. I've taken substance abuse, anger management.
Wow.
Okay.
why was anger management so meaningful for you?
Because anger management helped me to recognize that anger is a normal feeling, but it's how I react to the anger is which make things better. I was able to learn tools to identify different triggers, and when I get angry, how to handle them, how to assess them.
How did anger play a role in the farming community?
It played a big role because vengeance was not mine to take. It was for God, and that was the whole role to it.
I see that you took victim awareness.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that, when you learned about that.
I learned about how grave of an impact that it has for a victim to lose someone they love, and them not being able to return to them. And that's not something that I want to ever be a part of, is taking someone away from someone else that they love.
You know, one of the things that I thought about as I was reading your file was just the to be bound and laying there and having one person shot, and then knowing that you're the next person and the next person, and knowing that their lives are about to come to an end is the most, horrific thing that I can imagine a person having to experience. What do you think it was or is in you that would have allowed that degree of cruelty? Because that was extremely cruel. So what do you think it was in you that allowed you to have so much cruelty towards these people?
I think it was anger. Man. God was trying to show me something at the beginning of 2000, which I didn't recognize. He was telling me to change my life. I had been robbed 3 different times that year, and this was the last robbery that had took place. So God was trying to show me that I needed to change my lifestyle. And I just didn't take heed to it.
How much has been taken from you in this robbery?
Drugs and $10,000.
So in the transitional mentoring program, what do you, in light of your own circumstances, what do you tell these young men?
I tell these young men that they need to get educated, stay away from drugs and alcohol because they lead to a road of destruction. You get educated, you put yourself in a better opportunity to provide yourself and your family with the things you need instead of having to resort back to the things that you once trusted in.
Tell me about the substance abuse programs you've taken.
Substance abuse. We talk about drugs of choice, about going to meetings, getting a sponsor, about communicating. That's one of the biggest things is communicating amongst other addicts, talking about your problems, getting them out in the air and getting other advice, even calling the sponsor whenever you feel like you want to use, you have an avenue. Plus you have family support and support from the church as well.
I guess I wanted to know, what did you learn about your own drug use?
Now, I'm an addict in recovery. I've been sober now for 21 years, And I know that I can never use again, but in order to stay on that track, I need support from my family, my sponsor, group NA meetings, things like that.
Were you actually a drug user or were you more drug user?
I was both, man. I was both. I was a user.
What drugs did you use?
My drug of choice was PCP.
And how often would you use that?
Almost every day.
Because typically someone who's involved in serious drug dealing, kind of don't use themselves. So I'm not sure if I buy your addiction part of the equation. I think, just from the nature of the crime, it seems like you were more into the dealing aspect of it.
Well, I was dealing cocaine, so I didn't use the cocaine. That's probably why.
In 2017, you had a write-up for contraband. What could you tell us about that?
Yes, ma'am. I had a cell phone, very irresponsible action of mine. I should have never had it.
How did you get the cell phone and why did you have it?
I had retrieved it from a friend of mine to call home and call friends. It was more convenient, but it was irresponsible behavior. I shouldn't have never had it.
How many write-ups have you had over the last 21 years?
5.
And the last one being in 2017, the cell phone, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Who's in the room with you? Or is there anyone at Hunt that can give us some information about Mr. Winfrey?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Go ahead.
This is Deputy Warden Russ. Winfrey is a minimum trustee offender, working at our ASNR, working on vehicles. He is a trustee. He has completed, he has 412 days in CTRP credits. He's been here since 2018. He has not had any disciplinary reports since being here. His work assessment, his supervisors on his work site have all given him positive comments on his work ethic and his work productivity. They also commented that his attitude, his work ethic and his attitude is great. And on his assessment, he has a low Tiger risk score.
All right, thank you, Warden. I appreciate your input.
You're welcome.
Mr. Merkel, that's all I have.
We do have some speakers on your behalf. Ms. Lehman, I assume. Thank you very much, Mr. Winfrey. Now hear from the opposition, Mr. David Duhan.
How you doing? I'm David Duhan. I'm Kimberly Duhan Solver's younger brother. Actually, Kim was actually 2 years older than me. Kim was more like my mom, my best friend, and to lose her at the age of 18, that was very hard. Until today, it's still hard. I go to counseling still because it's a lot that I can't get through, knowing that she's a person that I will never see another day in my life until I go meet her when I go to heaven. With the going for parole, for me, it's like you got a lighter sentence. Do your time. You have time to see your family and you're still able to see them and everything. I cannot sit up there and call my sister. I still have my sister's phone number still locked up in my phone. You know, I go through stuff and look at it and wish one day I could call her, but I can't. I will never be able to call her again. You know, so you have the point where you can talk to your family, you there with your family and everything, you know. So do your time. We gave you a lighter sentence, which for me, I would have never even gave you that. You know, but you got it. Do your time. Get it over with. You know, I wouldn't dare give parole. I'm sorry, but that's just me. Because I will never see my family again. And you have that opportunity. Thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Duhan. We appreciate your comments. Ms. Marcia Duhan.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you very well.
Okay, my name is Marcia Duhan. I'm Kimberly Salver Duhan's mother. And I would like to say to Charles Winford, I took the death penalty off the table for you. I gave you something that you didn't give my daughter. I gave you a second chance to breathe life. You didn't give it to my daughter. You asked me specifically for 110 years. And I asked you, you sure you want 110 years? You say, yeah. So I expect you to spend them 110 years that you asked for. You want parole? 21 years, not enough of time for you to serve from killing 4 people. You took 4 people's lives for nothing. Your family can come see you, talk to you. None of us can go see none of ours. Jack, my daughter, the other victim, they parents or family can't go see them. You took something from us, and you still got a chance to breathe life.
Would just address your comments to the board and not to Mr. Winfrey himself.
Okay. I expect he asked me for 110 years. I gave him that. That's what he wanted. So I expect for him to serve 110 years. He took something from me. He took my daughter, the only daughter I had. My grandbaby, my first grandbaby, he took that. I would never be able to get that back from him. He destroyed my world. And spending 21, maybe 22 years, it's not enough time from taking 4 people's lives. And then a grandbaby I never had a chance to see. And yes, he's doing a good deed in prison, teaching other inmates other things. That's good. Now he can do positive in prison. He couldn't do it out in the free world. He have a chance to do it in prison. And I expect for him to do his 110 years that he asked for. I took the death penalty off the line for him. He didn't give my daughter that. He took her life without any doubt. And they want to say drugs. It wasn't about he was on drugs. He had a choice. He had the gun in his hand. They had tied them down like some dogs and shot them in the back of their head. My daughter specifically begged for her life, and he still shot her. And I turned around and took the death penalty out for him after he took something from me. So I expect for him to spend that 110 years in prison. He don't know the pain I go through.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt, for your comments. We do appreciate your comments. We understand what you.
Okay.
Mr. Winfrey, is there anything you'd like to say before your attorney wraps it up for us?
Yes, sir. So I cannot right the wrong that I've done in the past. I want to apologize to Ms. Duhan, the Salver family, the Robinson family, for my actions. I'm truly sorry. I pray that if the board for allowing me another opportunity that my life will not be lived unto myself upon release, but my life will be a sacrifice to others, and I will show the same mercy and compassion to others that the parole board has shown me. And I thank you all for giving me an opportunity to speak, and I thank you all for hearing the case.
Thank you, Mr. Winfrey. Ms. Lehman, if you would,
Thank you, Judge Mirabella. Mr. Winfrey fully admits his guilt for this horrific crime. And the board obviously needs to weigh the seriousness of the crime very heavily. But in relation to that, we also ask you to consider the truly exceptional nature of Mr. Winfrey's rehabilitation, his support from senior correctional staff, and his genuine attempts to make amends, and his readiness and desire to give back to society productively. But I wanted to start by acknowledging the seriousness of the crime. I have known Mr. Winfrey for a little over 20 years. When I was a young lawyer right out of law school, I helped out with his case, and I've been able to stay in touch, and I've been able to watch him grow as a person, and it is a privilege to address the board on his behalf. He has worked hard and participated in many, many programs at the DOC, but I think the most notable has been his role as mentor in the reentry and rehabilitation program at Angola, and then his reprisal of that at Elaine Hunt at the warden's specific request that he helped start a similar program there. At both places, he was chosen for these roles because of his strong technical abilities, yes, but also for what they saw then of his moral character, because he was acting as an example to the individuals he mentors. His desires to make amends to the families of the victims is real, though obviously he knows he can never undo what he has done. He has been able to meet Miss Duhan in person. She has granted him that gift, and it has been very meaningful for him to be able to apologize to her. He has also reached out to Miss Katrina Chambers. She is the sister of Jack Sarver and the daughter of Harold Sarver Sr. And they are actually scheduled to speak directly with each other later this month under the auspices of the Crime Victim Services Bureau at Ms. Chambers' request. Ms. Chambers, as the board knows via her letter, supports his application for parole, and Mr. Winfrey is beyond grateful for that. Finally, I've had the privilege of meeting some of Mr. Winfrey's family, and more of them wanted to participate today than Zoom could accommodate. But he has tremendous family support. If he is granted parole at some point, he will go back to an extended, loving family that his 5 brothers and sisters, his nieces and nephews, his 2 children, Jatori and Precious, and they have many plans to keep him very busy with jobs, with prison ministries, as his sister Clara mentioned, etc. And he also has indicated a strong interest in being involved in reentry work. I ask the board to grant him release with any conditions it deems appropriate, acknowledging the seriousness of the crime, which cannot be denied, but also in light of the exceptional evidence of rehabilitation and the support in the letters you will have seen from very senior, experienced correctional staff who have known Mr. Winfrey for years and who believe in him. Thank you very much.
thank you very much. Ms. Jackson.
Mr. Winfrey, I acknowledge that you've done a lot of good things while you were incarcerated, and you should be commended for that. But when I look at the fact that 4 people were brutally murdered, a pregnant woman and her unborn child, and 3 other people, and the fact that you've only served 21 years for this crime, I cannot in good conscience say that today I can vote to release you. There was a plea agreement in your case, and I think there has to be some consideration given to that, because you could truly have been on death row as we speak right now. But through the grace, if you will, of the victim's family, you were allowed to not have to face that even as a possibility in your case. You've done a lot of good things, and I hope you'll continue to do a lot of good things while you're incarcerated. But because of the strong victim opposition, the nature of the crime and the insufficient amount of time I've served in light of the seriousness of the crime, my vote today is to deny your request for parole.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Wise?
For the reasons already stated on the record, my vote is the same.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Mr. Winfrey, you have done some tremendous things while you've been in prison. There's no question about it. And while it's true, the facts of the case are one factor that we take into account. The facts of this case were as bad as any we've ever seen. All murders are horrible, but this was tremendously horrible, if you will. There is victim opposition. There was a plea agreement. You did agree to that. I do understand the laws change and you have a right to exercise your legal rights. And certainly you are legally before us. I do believe at some point, if I'm still on this board, I'm likely to vote to let you out. Today is just not that day. You've done some wonderful things. You talk about your life has changed. And you have meaning to your life. You are really in a position right now to help a lot of people. And it sounds like you are. I mean, all of the wonderful words that were spoken of you by the wardens, by all of the prison staff, speak to what you have accomplished and how you've helped other people. Right now, I believe maybe that's God's plan for you, to be where you are right now, to help and continue to help. I hope this isn't a tremendous disappointment for you, because I want you to continue to do the things that you're doing. And hopefully in the future, you come back before us or a different panel, the verdict might be a little different. But today, the vote is 3 votes to deny your parole. Your parole has been denied, but continue to do and continue to help the people that you're helping right now. So good luck to you.
Okay, thank you.
You know, and they denied it. And again, I don't know. It's strange. It's strange for me how you can get all these years and then come up for parole and the family has to keep being put through this. And it's just the craziest thing, again, to think about. How do you murder people like that in cold blood? And let me read to you. I don't know if I should have done this to begin with. Let me know how your preference is, but I'm just going to read to you. This is from 2003. And again, to think how fast time goes by, but it's, here's how it went down. So 2 Houston men were charged with killing 2 Lake Charles men and 1 man's pregnant wife. They pled guilty to reduced charges so they won't face the death penalty. So Roderick Turner and Nathaniel Smith each pled guilty Tuesday to 3 counts of manslaughter and agreed to testify against the alleged triggerman. And we just saw the triggerman up for parole. It's like, what? How did it's like, how did the prosecution completely, it's like they completely lost in this situation, right? Winfrey is the only man indicted in the case who has not pleaded guilty to reduced charges. A 4th defendant pled guilty to manslaughter last summer. Harold Server, 23, his pregnant wife, Kimberly, 20, and Charles Robinson, 38, were killed because they say it was a drug deal that went wrong. I mean, I think they're simplifying it. As we know here, someone, I think, stole from them, and then they came in for retribution, I guess. But it's like, again, so go murder everyone. I mean, what? Well, why not just, it just doesn't make sense. All 4 defendants originally were charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, which can be punishable by death, as well as first-degree feticide and 1 attempted first-degree murder. Now, a 3rd man was shot in the face, only slightly hurt. I look at this, slightly hurt, but he faked his death. His name had not been released. Now, again, they had him to testify against everybody, unless they were going to say that he wasn't going to testify. The murder charges were changed to manslaughter, which carries a maximum sentence of 40 years at hard labor. Prosecutors dropped the other two charges against Turner and Reginald of Houston, who pled guilty on August 26th. District Judge Kent Sabio will sentence them after Winfrey's trial. Again, the man who you saw. He said he will decide whether to make the man's sentences simultaneous or back-to-back. Smith also pled guilty to an unrelated charge of negligent homicide, reduced from a second-degree murder of an inmate who was beaten to death in a correctional center. And again, is it possible his story is true and he was just happened to be in the room? I don't know. But when you have such a loaded jacket, Harold Server and Robinson were shot once in the face. Kimberly Server was shot once in the shoulder. She made it out to the street, was taken to the hospital where she died. The man who survived did not even need medical treatment. He's expected to be key prosecutor. So the man who was shot in the face didn't even need medical treatment. How is that possible? I guess maybe it went through his cheek and out the other side, you would still need medical treatment, right? It just goes to show. Frey said that said he will ask Smith's negligent homicide sentence to be served at the same time as the manslaughter sentence. He said the state also agreed not to seek multiple offender bills. It's just the strangest thing. It's like the DA was like, we have a royal flush, we have like a slaughterhouse, we have pregnant people begging for their lives, we have them just murdered in cold blood. But whatever. Let's just hand them plea deals. Let's just give it as good as we can for them. Because who cares? It's insane. I don't get it. Assistant District Attorney Kate Bartholomew, who handled the prison death, said Smith and another inmate beat Bobby Pete to death in his cell. So the person who handled it said that no, he was definitely there beating him to death. So officials said Pete died of blood before trauma to the head, and it ordered Turner and Smith held without bond until the sentencing. Well, so the DA, they didn't buy his story. This is, of course, the man who we saw before this. Okay. But I thank you, Sir Richard, for connecting the dots. None of this would be possible. Sir Richard has spreadsheets that are quite insane. Maybe I'll give you just a glimpse of it, which I do quite often. But let me show you, because it's just the most beautiful, insane thing. So here's a spreadsheet. And this is just one spreadsheet. We have many spreadsheets. As you can see, it shows 2023, right? And then you would go into it, and to that makes it possible so that we're able to see who the cohorts are and how I can tie it all together. So you go in here and you see that this is our man Winfrey, and then he says, see this row where it says right here, it shows cohorts. Look at that, a good time data 2088, for example. So we have Broderick Turner and Nathaniel, the DOCs, and the lines, right? And then I'm able to go into the spreadsheet and pull those up. And then we also have all the news articles. But so that's a big thank you to Sir Richard. And for those of you who wonder who Sir Richard is, I've never met him. This is his passion project. He's an ill man. He's legally blind, but yet somehow does this. I have no idea how. He's legally deaf, but he has hearing aids. He's I think the most interesting man in the world. He's got quite an amazing history, and then he has his beautiful wife Lorraine that allows him to do this. Sir Richard does this as a passion project, mostly with this goal of protecting children and righting wrongs of injustice. Again, we just see here victims getting re-victimized. And the DA, not one DA shows up to this. I mean, all these people dead, and you can't get a DA, one to show up. You can't make this stuff up. You really can't. And with that, I'll let you go.
I understand Broderick Turner, mama. I'm a mother too. But her son have my daughter's blood on his hands. He had a choice to turn around and help my daughter, and he chose not to. And like they said, he tied them down like some dogs. And my daughter sit on that couch begging for her life and telling them that she was pregnant. And the living room and the den is connected together. He was in another room, he's saying, but everything was connected together. My daughter sit there and begged for her life. When they shot Jack, Charles, and her daddy, his daddy, she feared for her life. That's when she took off running, trying to go to the back door. They grabbed my daughter by her hair and broke her fingers and everything and shot her in the shoulder. And they took off running, but they all had a choice to help save my daughter and Jack. They had one gun, 5 men. They could have told him, no, we're not going to do this. But they chose to go that path. So I figured they got 35 years from killing 4 people. That's less of time. So I'm figuring I would want them to spend all their time in jail. And maybe his change. But my daughter don't have that chance. I don't have a chance to go see my daughter or anything. His mama got a chance to go see him and his sister, even if he have kids. I don't have that. They took my daughter and my grandbaby away from me.